Hello and welcome to Science Talk. I am your host, Jim Massa. I want to talk to you today in this video segment about the current climate change that's underway. The planet is warming faster than ever worldwide. Scientists know this unique climate change is not caused by nature. And just to be sure, they checked again, and it's not caused by nature. So European scientists from the U.S. have basically cleared up a little point that's been of some little nagging thing going on for a couple of decades. That not only is the planet warming faster than any time in the last 2,000 years, but is this unique climate change really humans, or does it have a historic precedent? In other words, could it be natural causes or not? Other historic changes, the so-called medieval warm period, then the Little Ice Age that marked the 17th and 19th centuries, were not global. Keep that in mind. The only period in which the world's climate has changed everywhere and at the same time is now. So you have, climate deniers talk about, the Little Ice Age, and the planet's climate's changed before. Well, they were not global. Wide region, but not global. Not everything changing at the same time. All you have to do is look at maps recreating, temperature anomalies across the planet, and everywhere is orange to red except for a few isolated spots, like in the North Atlantic, where it's a little cooler because Greenland is melting, and you got all that cold melt water going into the ocean, which will then cool the atmosphere right above it. So the whole planet is warming. This is unique. This has never been seen before in the data. Other shifts in the past, marked by advancing alpine glaciers, sustained droughts in Africa, could be pinned down to a bunch of volcanic activities. A bunch of volcanoes are blowing their top. The present sustained ubiquitous warming is unique in that it can be coupled directly with the Industrial Revolution, clearing of the forests, population growth, and of course the burning of fossil fuels. You can go right back. I've done plenty of video segments of this topic before. Go click on my video tab, go check them out. Scroll down and click on what interests you. A lot of the work, though, that verifies this information is through isotopic fractionation. And I did a lengthy video explaining, along with some examples and analyses of what isotopic fractionation is all about. So in a report that was published in the journal Nature, the finding is part of a sustained examination of global climate history based not just on written and pictorial records, but also studies of ancient lake sediments, sediment cores, isotopic fractionation, ice cores, isotopic fractionation, tree rings, also isotopic fractionation, along with other techniques and other proxy evidence assembled by an international partnership called the Past Global Changes Consortium. So basically, this research was kind of think of it as a cleanup, a tidying up operation, just to remove any last vestiges of perhaps nagging questions, if you will. Climate scientists, conservationists, glaciologists, marine biologists, geologists, economists all know that, and other scientific disciplines, all know that climate change is happening, and that is happening as a consequence of what we humans are doing, our activities, over the last 1 to 2 centuries. But from the start, there's always been, the gnawing question, hasn't the climate always changed? If global temperatures rose between 700 AD and 1400 AD and then fell again, is what is happening now not part of some similar long-term cycle? Perfectly legitimate question. And until now, that has remained without a confident, categorical answer. So while the latest study may not surprise nobody who do this professionally, it does matter because the nature study clarifies a point of possible confusion. There have been changes in modern human history, but none of them global and synchronous, happening at the same time. There were random fluctuations within the climate system, and even changes in solar activity or volcanic surges could not affect all of the planet at any one time. You may get a volcano blows its stack and its ash up into the atmosphere, and yes, it may get travel around the planet, but using how the jet stream distributes it. So it may be more hemispheric, like in the northern hemisphere, but not necessarily in the southern hemisphere. Okay? And by the way, I just did a recent video where I talk about that the solar output really is not a major contributing factor to climate, at least to changes in the climate. So check out that video as well. So Raphael Newcomb of the University of Bern in Switzerland, and basically the lead author, states, "It is true that during the Little Ice Age it was generally colder across the whole world, but not everywhere at the same time. The peak periods of pre-industrial warm and cold periods occurred at different times in different places." Now, this does involve a very complicated, complex, sophisticated statistical analyses, spatio-temporal analyses. I won't bore you with the details on it, but the analyses are solid. Dr. Newcomb's colleague at Bern, Stefan Bronnemann, clears up another point in a related study in the journal Nature Geoscience. The Little Ice Age began in Europe with no obvious trigger, but it was definitely reinforced and extended by more violent than usual volcanic activity in the tropics between 1808 and 1835. Mount Tambora, what is now Indonesia, threw a shitload of ash into the stratosphere that effectively screened the sunlight and did drop temperatures such that 1816 became known as the year without a summer. But there are also 4 other eruptions between 1820 and 1850. Alpine glaciers, which are now retreating fast, were actually advancing back then. African and Indian monsoon systems weakened, and rain that should have fallen on very warm, hot, dry soils dropped and instead got snow. So Dr. Bronnemann says that given the large climatic changes seen in the early 19th century, it is difficult to define a pre-industrial climate, a notion to which all our climate targets refer. Frequent volcanic eruptions cause an actual gear shift in the global climate system. But again, the point here is that they demonstrated that it was not occurring across the entire globe at the same time, with the same intensity. It wasn't synchronous. It was out of steps. It was out of phase, if you will. So all these various volcanic eruptions, what the glaciers, alpine glaciers were doing, what the monsoons were doing, they were happening at different times, and the effects were felt at different times. University College London. He was not involved in the study, but he commented on the paper in Nature. said over the last 2,000 years, the only time the global climate has changed synchronically has been in the last 150 years, when over 98% of the surface of the planet has warmed. In other words, all the other changes in the past did not have the changes in the same direction on such a scale, basically planet-wide. This paper, he goes on to, he continues, this paper should finally stop climate change deniers claiming that the recent observed coherent global warming is part of a natural climate cycle. In other words, it ain't. And here, this paper shows the truly stark difference between regional and localized changes in climates of the past and the truly global effect of anthropogenic greenhouse emissions. So there you have it. The key takeaway from here is that what's happening the last 150 to 200 years is synchronous across the planet. That has never been the data, none of the data that we have has demonstrated this happening in the past, but it is now, and it can be tied to human activity, clearing of the forests, burning fossil fuels, industrial revolution, boom in human population. Because then more people require more energy, etc. There you have it. This should finally put to rest that humans are indeed fucking with the planet and the planet's climate, to be blunt. Thank you for your time. Hello folks, this is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.